Hello Empire, Garrett here with this week's edition of Regions Corner. So this week, I think what we're going to do is, I'm feeling crafty, I'm going to walk you through my process of how to make a project. So today's I'm going to be making a dice chest. The pattern is McWin Handcraft. You can get this pattern on Etsy. I was also featured by Dark Horse. Leather on YouTube, which is another great video in there. So with credit to the pattern. So for leather, we're going to use roughly about a 4 to 5 ounce piece of leather that I have left there. So we're just gonna, this is most likely going to be a two-parter, since it is going to take me a while to do this. I can't do this all in one 20-30 minute video. So we're going to have to take my pattern, I'm going to lay out here, I'm going to make sure I have adequate space around it. I like to use my all tracer. I like to use, actually let me use my other one, there we go. I like to use this one just because it's more of a spear, it's got more of a point. And what I do is, I just trace my pattern onto the leather. Now I like to use a scratch awl for this. In fact, tell you what, boom. Look at that, there's the bag we made earlier today in the series. But I like to use this because it gives me a nice solid line. Unlike ink or marker, if you don't cut close enough, you can end up with in your project, and that's not good. Then the other reason I do this is because with this, it gives me a nice little groove for my knife to follow into. Now we're not pressing super hard. We just want enough to get the pattern going. So we're just going to sit here and I'm going to talk you through my process, show you what I do. I thought about doing this live, but I'm not quite sure yet how to do that on YouTube. I might do something on Facebook, but not everybody in the kingdom's on my friend list on Facebook, and I really don't, no offense, but I don't think I need the entire kingdom or empire and all of Amgard on my Facebook page. Not that I post much. I am like the ultimate light lurch. I just lurch around. Okay. Come on. Getting those holes are the tricky part. So now I did my outline. It has some holes area here. That's what we're going to do here. But for right now, so you see we got a nice cutout right there. I'm going to move that off to the side. I'm going to grab my razor knife. And I always drop my blades just the same. If I start feeling getting too dull, I'll go ahead and replace it. They're cheap. That's the main advantage of this. I don't know if you guys want to watch that or not, but we're just going to okay. And of course I have my rubber back here, so we're not gonna and we cut. Now, I'm not going to cut these out just yet. I'm going to show you a little trick how we're going to do those in a minute here. And we're going to cut. feel like I should have background music playing here. I don't know what the... Really not much of a conversationalist here. I feel like I'm talking to myself. Which frankly is nothing new, but... it's usually mostly in my head. Okay, come on. Alright, so we're going to take that off. While I keep cutting the rest of this. Now, of course, when you're cutting, you want to keep your edge straight up. You don't want to be leaning back and forth. That gives you a weird leather cuts. Okay. Alright. So now we got the main body cut. We're going to hit these corners here. And the easiest way to do that is I'm going to use my really small round one. Punching this there. Actually, that might not be. Work that in that corner there. Trim that little piece. Doesn't have to be perfect because those are going to be hitting on the inside, so you're not going to see that. And it won't matter too much. This is where I usually like to listen to music, have my headphones on, watch some YouTube videos, So, to each their own. Put some TV. A lot of times I like to watch background noise, TV shows. The cheesier, the better. Nailed it. They got a new one. Is it Cake? Pretty much anything that I don't care to watch. Plot means nothing to me. It's where Netflix is my friend. All right. So now that we got that done, those are... I like to put my tools away as I work. I gotta keep a clean, organized workspace. It's important. So now we're going to go back to overlaying the pattern. And so what we're going to do is we're going to flip it over, because at certain points, it's going to tell us to do certain things. So what I'm going to do is get my marker. So all I'm going to do is mark the lines. So I'm marking all the parts where I'm going to need to cut and skive and trim and all that good stuff. So now get my trusty ruler. I'm going to mark all of this out. I like that. Give myself guidelines as much as possible when I start trying to eyeball and freehand stuff. That's when stuff starts getting in trouble. All right, so now that we have our marks done, so now we're going to use a couple of different tools here. First off, we're going to use a skive tool, and this is what this does. Is it's even for 4 ounce. Believe it or not, we're going to make it even thinner. And all we do here is I put on the line. Now, because this leather's already pretty thin, we're not going to shave off much. Just a hair bit. This is going to make it easier to fold everything. I usually don't make production videos, so I can't. If you really want to see how it's done the best way, go ahead and I would suggest watching Dark Horse and Magnus. I'm just showing you, giving you my take on how, my thought process when I'm working through a project. Thought you guys might. Now we don't want to go too thin. We're just taking a little bit off. We just want to thin that out because that's where our holes are going to go. And we're going to so it's just going to make it easier to. This is also super messy, by the way. So we're just thinning that out a little bit. We're just going to make that a little bit easier to fold in on itself later when we go to stitch it together. And now this is going to be a two-parter. We're not going to, there's no way I can do this whole video in one go. Just between wait time, and all that. So that's all we're going to do for the skiving. We're just going to skive those edges down. Next, we're going to along this line here, and I forgot to mark my other sides. So along here, in here, we're going to cut a groove. So for that, we're going to use a V-grooving tool, which I just recently purchased. Yeah, about $28. And you see there, it has a nice little blade. And as that comes up through the leather, it's just going to cut a hole right through it. And let's see, I don't think I need that deep. Obviously, the deeper it goes, the deeper the cut, but we don't need a hugely cut deep. Come on.
can be a little tricky. And then we're just going to follow that line.
And you see right there, it gives you a nice deep groove. So when that folds in, that's going to make it fold so much easier. Uh-oh, looks like I have Inspector Mochi coming. Come here. You have to forgive me. The Mochi, my kitty here, likes to have his attention when I'm working. So I have to, oh, come on. So we're going to V-groove all four sides here. Okay, come on. All right, sorry about that. You know how it is when you have cats. They demand their affections. And he's come to the conclusion anytime I'm working, it's what? It is love time. He has to come give me hugs. And oh, come on. So he doesn't want to be put down just yet. So we're going to keep grooving this after we groove it. And then I'm going to set up on the flip side. We're going to set up, and we're going to set up for the to drop in the stitch line. And then we're going to put in the work on the artwork. And we'll get some carving done. And I think we'll call that part 1. Okay. Oh, guys. Okay. One more go around. There we go. So we got our nice tight grooves there. So like I said, that'll allow that to fold up really nice and easy. So now we're going to flip it over. I don't think we're going to need this. Oh, actually, I do need that. Now at this point, you can either run your own groove lines or you can use the pattern ones. So we're just going to go ahead and set that all back up. And I'm just going to use my awl once again. And I'm just going to mark my holes. We don't have to push all the way through the leather at this point. All we're doing is line up the pattern, make sure the pattern is right on the leather. And we're just going to mark the holes. Sometimes I follow the pattern holes exactly. Other times I kind of do my own thing because they don't always line up perfectly to say a 6 or 5 millimeter. Or whatever size you're going to use if you're using a multi-punch. Now at this point, you can always use a 1 millimeter round punch. If you like that style, a lot of people do. It does make it a lot easier. I personally prefer my irons. Technically, they're not pricking irons. Pricking irons only do basically what I'm doing now. And then you go through and you punch the holes later with an awl. But most common terminology, people call them pricking irons. They're actually, I do believe the technical term is punching irons. If you really want to get into that. And all we're going to do is, like I said, we're just marking all the individual holes, and then we're going to punch the individual holes. And all right. And then now on this pattern, I don't punch both holes because depending on the latch I use, the holes don't line up properly, so I only punch the one hole. Which we'll go ahead and punch now because that's going to give us our mark for
later, once I get the
latch installed, we'll do that in part 2. Install latch. But I go ahead and mark that hole there. All right, I'm gonna bring up my seat. Take a seat here. Just so you can see an example. As you see, though, that doesn't fit very well, and I don't think these are gonna line up very well either. Yeah, that's actually pretty close. So let's use this one. I believe these are my 4mm. Really doesn't matter. You can punch them individually. You can use like I said, a 1/16 00 1mm hole punch. But personally, as I've said before, now remember, you don't have to go all the way bury it. Just enough to go through is plenty enough. And then we line up our hole, and that's where the holes are there. Once again, see, just enough. It's all you need. Don't have to get anything crazy. Remember to hold your straight up and down. You don't want to be here. You don't want to be there. That's going to cause your needle to go weird ways when you start trying to line things up. As you see, that's right in our skiv line there, which is exactly what we want, because that's going to make it a little bit easier to line these up in when we go to stitch them. Couple taps. Now, if they start getting sticky, you can always wax. You can go ahead and wax them a little bit. If they start want to get stuck, it does help a lot. And then the leather is quite a bit. There we go. And what the heck, we'll go ahead and do this side. And so this is a fun little project. He has several other patterns, including a dragon and a mimic one. I've been meaning to try to get that mimic one. I think that would be a really fun one to do. But these are actually really fun. They give you a nice little space to carve. You're not going to have a huge amount of room. You can't have, unfortunately, but it does give you some nice practice doing some stuff. Or you can leave them plain. Once again, this is another great spot. You can use conchos and such to add style to it, or jewels, or colored studs, and all kinds of things you can get creative with. I like to do little carving work on here. I'm not quite sure exactly yet. Let me hit that one a little harder. Didn't feel like it quite went through. Not quite sure what artwork I'm going to do on this just right this second. We'll have to pull out the old artwork machine here. So I'm going to go ahead and wet the leather here a little bit. Now I like to wet the whole piece, even if I'm only carving a small part of it. It just helps the leather dry evenly, because if you don't, sometimes leather will do weird things and you'll get wet watermarks. So if I only were to do right here where I'm going to carve, because really you only have this much area here as your surface to work with. By the time this is all folds up, you only have that much to work with. So you're not going to be using a huge... Oh, come on. Another important reason to keep your surface area clean. So I'll tell you what, and now I definitely don't need this anymore. Get this out of the way. So I'm going to go ahead and take my edge beveler. I like to, on this thinner stuff, I like to use a #1 beveler. And we're just going to go ahead and bevel. And this is going to help clean up a lot of the ugly edges and corners and such, so you don't have to worry. You're not going to have a perfectly clean cut. That's, I think,
a little excessive, or you gotta expectations. But we're just gonna get it a quick. Now the reason I do this is this rounds the edges, and it also takes care of these really bad, not quite cut close enough, but it will help clean those up. And we're just gonna my other, yes, Christian, that's Christian you hear in the background. He's a very talkative kitty. He's technically my Paige's Micah, who's down in college in Missouri currently. So yeah, I do that for my Belted family. I adopt their cats. that's Belt family material right there. Would they adopt your cat for you? Yeah, but he's a heck of a mouser. Oh my gosh, he loves to bring me all kinds of treats. Snakes, birds. Yeah, then there's his favorite treat. Well, let's just say, imagine what you do to a chocolate Easter bunny. That's what he does to the bunnies. And then he drops them off. So we're going to edge both sides. And he's extremely talkative and vocal. And the more he doesn't get to go outside, the madder he gets. But as you can imagine, it's Wyoming and it's super windy and cold right now. So he doesn't want to go outside, but it's my fault. You know, blame the human. And we're almost done here. Okay. All right. So now that we've skivved the edges, probably that's almost ready to, there we go. Let's see, what should we do? Now, obviously we've discussed this before in patterns and stuff. Craft aids, you can buy them from Tandy. They come in a variety selection. Really love them. They're not terribly expensive. I think they're like maybe $8. You know what? Maybe a simple, yeah, let's see. So obviously layout's important. You got to make sure your piece is going to fit, because if it's too big, it's not there. This is going to fold over, so you want to make sure that what you do, I'm going to do this one for fun. I like this one. Where is my head? Well, it looks like I'll have to get a I used to have a latch right here somewhere that was perfectly for this. I'll find it later. All right, so it has a raised edge here, so we're gonna put that edge on the face down. I'm gonna put it more or less where I think I'm gonna center that up. That should be high enough that's not gonna sit on there. So we're going to place that in there. Now this likes to move around on you, so this is where I'm going to use my roller. And it's really important to keep this craft aid from moving, because believe you me, it likes to move. Now this one you're going to actually apply a decent amount of pressure, because the deeper it goes, the deeper the impression, the easier it'll be to stitch. But you just got to make sure you don't get walk it over, or because it will like to slide around on you, trust me.
I think that's pretty good enough. That's a nice, good impression. Good enough that I can see what we're going to do. Now, the next thing I like to do is I'm probably going to go ahead and put a border on this, because that's another thing I like to do. And yeah, we're going to use my favorite border. This one happens to be a D2181, but you can also, I don't think Tandy sells them anymore, but Weaver Leathercraft still has them. And so I make sure my groove stitcher is just the right, make sure I'm going to clear that before I go carving. Ooh, we may have to make it just a smidge closer so that doesn't. No. So what we'll do. Tell you what we'll do then. We'll just change gears. And what we'll do is we'll just do along the, I can't really do nothing there. We'll just do along the box here. And we're just going to make a little, you can also use a creaser tool, or there's other things you can use for that. But we'll go ahead and do that, so that way when it's there, we'll have a nice pretty little, some artwork there. Let me touch this one if I can. There we go. And so what we'll do is, all right, so this, we're going to put it right next to there. So that groove line is a great way to hold it, make it in a nice steady plot. We got a nice groove there. So the next one, I'm going to sit there and I'm going to go ahead and put that hole right into that one. And I'm just going to work it back and forth. You should be able to feel it drop in. You don't want to make sure. And keep it nice and lined up. And just about perfect. A little messed up right there, but I think we can go back and fix it up a little bit. But we got the nice deal right there. So I got my nice there. We're just gonna keep letting that dry while we do this. I don't know. You know what? Let's experiment. Let's play around. So this one I'm going to use is the Celtic Knot Kit CR4 craft tool. You can buy the set at, let me get my bigger hammer for this, at Tandy. You can also buy them online. They make for cool. And we're just gonna, yeah, that looks pretty decent, I think. We'll probably center up a little bit more. We'll just walk that right off the edge. That's where it gets tricky, is trying to figure these out. Alright, that shouldn't be too big a deal. Boom. Alright, since we're just playing around here,
kind of experimenting. And then while that's still wet, I'm going to go ahead and take my sandpaper, sanding block, and I'm just going to smooth and hit those edges. Sanding down the edges is going to help close the fibers of the leather and give it a much smoother, so when you go to smooth things out, you're not going to be, it'll be less work later down the road when we go to finish the edges. I'm a big proponent of finished edges on leather work. Even if it's something that you really doesn't necessarily need it, I still feel like gives it a more professional and finished look when it's all said and done. And you don't have to go crazy with it. Like I said, and it's best done when the leather's wet or been wet a little bit. That way it kind of polishes and smooths the leather. There we go. Okay. So I think we're going to have to call this part 1. I'm almost out of time on my video. And I'll go ahead and film part 2, and we'll see part 2. So until then, stay crafty.